I got my first big boy job when I was 22 years old, a butter bar second lieutenant in the United States Army. Though it didn't have the highest salary, I was proud of that position. I felt like a full-fledged adult. I had real responsibilities and I got to make real decisions, ones that actually had real consequences. And I felt I was pretty good at my job. However, what I was not very good at was the decisions I made outside of that job, especially when it came to money decisions. Having gotten the opportunity to live off base, I immediately signed a lease on a one-bedroom apartment. Who cares if the rent ate up almost half of my paycheck? I was a full-fledged professional now. I needed a place that represented my full-fledged adulthood. But the one-bedroom apartment felt a bit sparse without any furniture. So I immediately drove down to the local furniture store without a plan, and you can probably guess what happened afterwards. I walked right into a rent-to-own, too-good-to-be-true deal, and walked out with way more furniture than I needed. And I spent the next 2 years paying dearly for that mistake. The interest I paid alone could have bought me a whole new set of furniture. And I made this mistake primarily because I didn't understand the game that was being played against me. I didn't recognize the psychological trap of smaller payments. Today, buy now, pay later is using the same playbook. They're laying out the same trap, taking advantage of the same young, vulnerable individuals. But today, it is bigger, slicker, and more dangerous than anything I faced 20 years ago. Back in the days, you had to physically walk into a brick-and-mortar store to get played. Today, these companies have built their traps right into your phone, seamlessly integrating themselves with every checkout process, wrapping slick apps with AI algorithms designed to study every one of your shopping behavior and get you to spend more. So if you're a shopper today, you have to be more vigilant than ever. If you don't want to fall into these companies' fancy marketing tricks, you have to understand the game they're trying to sucker you into and outsmart them. But first, let's talk about what exactly buy now, pay later is and how we arrived at where we're today. And if this is your first time hearing this term, buy now, pay later, do not worry. The specific term might be unfamiliar to you, but their strategy definitely won't be. I can almost guarantee you've already either seen it on passing or have interacted with it in some capacity during your latest shopping transaction, even if you didn't recognize what it was. Let me tell you what I mean. Recently, you might have been at a store checkout and seen options like this: pay in full or split into installments. That is buy now, pay later in action. And now it's getting so big that you can barely shop anywhere without seeing these options everywhere, from Amazon to your local coffee shop. And why? Because it's so attractive on the surface. You want to buy that cool bag but can't pull the trigger because of that $100 full price? Well, no worries. Now using the buy now, pay later service, instead of paying the full amount right away, you can just pay $25 today, then $25 every 2 weeks for the next 6 weeks. No interest, no credit check. And the best part? You can walk out of the store with that bag today. Thus, it's not a surprise that the BNPL market is exploding. In 2021, buy now, pay later transactions were $120 billion globally. By 2024, that number had nearly doubled to $340 billion. And experts predict it could hit $500 billion or even $1 trillion by 2027. To put that in perspective, that's larger than the GDP of many entire countries. In the US alone to date, over 100 million consumers have used BNPL services. That is roughly 1 in 3 adults. But what is scarier is that the average buy now, pay later user isn't just using it once. They're juggling multiple BNPL loans simultaneously. The average user has 2 to 3 active payment plans running at any given time. With so many people jumping on the BNPL bandwagon, of course, the companies providing these services are making a killing. The big players have names you've probably seen, and let me tell you, they're raking in the dollars. Klarna, which just went public, debuted at a valuation between $15 to $20 billion. Afterpay was bought by Square, now Block Inc., for $29 billion. Affirm, which went public in 2021, currently has a market cap of around $29 billion. And even PayPal launched their own pay in full service because they didn't want to miss out on this gold rush. But if you want to win financially, if you want to build lasting long-term wealth, you have to be ruthlessly careful with these companies and their products. Because despite their lively ads and cute marketing campaigns promising convenience and financial freedom, these companies care about only one thing: making more money. And where is that money coming from? Your pocket. And how are they getting so many people to jump on their bandwagon? By leveraging the power of psychology. And in my book, some twisted psychology in that. Let's dive into some of them. The first twisted BNPL psychological trick is price focalism. Our brains are fascinating organisms. They can come up with some of the most amazing, creative solutions to complex problems by leveraging stacks of knowledge. However, at the same time, our brains can be very naive and surprisingly easy to trick, all by just controlling where its focus is directed. This is where price focalism comes in. Price focalism is basically this. When you're presented with multiple pieces of price information, your brain does not weigh them equally. Instead, it focuses on one part and essentially ignores the rest. So when you see 4 payments of $25, instead of $100, your brain locks into that $25 number and treats it as the real price. The total cost, the $100, fades into the background. And you're not ignoring it on purpose, but your attention is being deliberately directed to the smaller, more appealing number. It's just the brain's natural way of digesting information. You also see the psychological strategy wherein retailers use price partitioning. The retailer shows you a base price of $199 boldly in large words and adds plus $15 shipping in smaller text. Our brain can't help itself but focus on that $199, which takes center stage in our brain. And unless we're very intentional, it gets hard for us to factor in the shipping fee to the total cost, even though the math is obvious that the final cost is $214, not $199. BNPL companies understand this psychology and thus have leveraged it to the T to get us to use their service. They make sure that the $25 number is front and center while the total cost gets pushed to the side, and your brain does the rest of the work for them. Now, for most people, this psychological trick alone will be enough to separate you from your money. But BNPL companies don't just stop there. The second trick they use is even trickier. The second twisted BNPL psychological trick is payment deferral. This one is about timing. Specifically, separating the pleasure of getting something from the pain of paying for it. When you buy something with cash, you feel the financial sting immediately. You hand over 5 $20 bills for a $100 purchase, and your brain registers the loss right away. It hurts a little, and that pain actually helps to regulate your spending. But BNPL breaks that connection. You get the dopamine hit of shopping and taking home your purchase today, while the financial pain gets spread out over weeks or months in the future. It's like eating a delicious donut now, but not feeling the pain until 6 weeks later. Your natural spending regulation system gets completely thrown off. Now, credit card companies have figured this out years ago and have been leveraging it to get more people to use their credit card services. However, BNPL takes it to the next level. With BNPL, you're not only needing to make the payments later, but it breaks that into smaller chunks and spreads that out over several months. But again, the trickery doesn't stop there. There is another element. But before we dive into the third twisted BNPL psychological trick, I want to share something that might help you understand why these tricks work so well on different people. In all my years of creating financial content and talking with hundreds of people about money, I discovered something fascinating. We all have different psychological weak spots when it comes to spending and money decisions. Some people are naturally great at avoiding impulse purchases, but they struggle with long-term planning. Others are excellent savers, but terrible at saying no to payment plans like BNPL. The key is understanding what your specific money psychology looks like. That's exactly why I created the Money Superpower quiz. It takes just a few minutes to complete and will reveal your unique money personality type, including which psychological tricks, like the ones we're discussing today, you're most vulnerable to. Once you know your money superpower, you'll get a personalized roadmap showing you exactly how to leverage your natural strengths and protect yourself from your blind spots. So don't wait. Go to the link in the description below to take the Money Superpower quiz today. And trust me, understanding your money psychology is the first step to outsmarting companies like these BNPL providers. Alright, with that, let's talk about the third twisted psychological trick these companies use. The third twisted BNPL psychological trick is reduced transparency. This is about making the money exchange feel less real. When you pay cash, you physically hand over bills. It's concrete and immediate. Credit cards already make spending feel more abstract since you're not handling physical money, but BNPL makes it even more abstract. Instead of one clear transaction, you're entering into what feels like a vague commitment to pay some small amount in the future. The actual cost gets buried under payment schedules, automatic deductions, and multiple apps tracking different purchase plans. Just like I convinced myself that rent-to-own was a great financial deal, BNPL users convince themselves that these small, automated payments don't really count as spending money. But the worst part about BNPL is not just the fact that it makes us buy things we shouldn't and couldn't. No, the worst part is the hidden cost. The hidden cost that is making these buy now, pay later companies millions and billions of dollars. Let's talk about the hidden cost behind BNPL, one that not enough people are talking about. One of the big ways BNPL companies make money is by charging retailers between 3 to 8% per transaction. Traditional credit card processing costs retailers around 2 to 3%, so BNPL fees can be 2 to 3 times higher. Now, here is the uncomfortable question. When retailers are paying these higher fees, where do you think that money is coming from? It doesn't just disappear. Those costs get baked into the price that everyone pays, whether you use BNPL or not. A recent study found that 1 in 3 retailers pass these BNPL costs onto all customers through higher product prices. So even if you are a responsible person paying cash or using credit cards that you pay in full every single month, you're indirectly subsidizing other people's payment plans. But the hidden cost gets even worse when you look at what actually happens to the people using these services. Over 50% of BNPL users have been hit with late fees. 1 in 3 users have missed payments entirely. And here's the most shocking statistic. 75% of BNPL users are at risk of needing debt advice. In a recent Wall Street Journal article, there was this woman in UK who used BNPL for a $366 festival ticket because it would have blown a hole in her monthly budget. She split it across several payments. Sounds reasonable, right? But then she admitted she was once £40,000 in debt. She said people don't see BNPL as real money. It's out of sight, out of mind, until they have hundreds of pounds a month going out that they haven't budgeted for. And remember, as I mentioned earlier, the average user isn't just managing one payment plan. They're juggling several active BNPL accounts across different companies at the same time. Imagine trying to track payment dates for Klarna, Afterpay, Affirm, and Sezzle all at once. It's a recipe for missed payments and fees. And this is not accidental. This is the business model working exactly as designed. But wait, there's more. Some of you might be thinking, this sounds just like credit cards. What's the big deal, right? But despite how similar they might look on surface, they're actually quite different. The risk with BNPL is nothing compared to credit cards, not even close. Because here's what research has found. BNPL increases spending even when compared to credit cards. Even when comparing two payment methods that both defer payments, BNPL still made people spend more. The researchers ran experiments where they compared BNPL to credit cards, both methods that let you pay later. But when installment prices were shown, people chose more expensive options and spent more money. When they hit the installment prices, the spending difference disappeared. This proves it's not only about the payment deferral. It's specifically about seeing those smaller installment amounts on top of payment deferral. In one study, they offered people a choice between a cheaper hotel room and a more expensive one. When expensive room was shown as 4 payments of $110 instead of $440, way more people chose the expensive option. Another study showed that 8 payments increased spending more than 4 payments because the installment amounts were even smaller. But here's what makes BNPL more dangerous than credit cards today: the regulatory gap. And it's getting worse. Most BNPL providers are not subject to the same credit regulations as credit card companies. Many don't report to credit bureaus, so you're not building credit history. And here's the scary part. Many providers use AI-driven algorithms specifically designed to encourage more spending. And the situation just got more dangerous. In 2025, the Trump administration announced it would not enforce new rules that would have treated BNPL companies like credit card companies. These rules would have required monthly billing statements and refund protections for customers. Meanwhile, the data is showing exactly why we needed those protections. A recent Consumer Financial Protection Bureau study found that nearly 2/3 of BNPL loans went to borrowers with risky credit scores, and defaults are rising. Klarna reported a 17% year-over-year increase in credit losses. As one former bureau official puts it, Americans were using buy now, pay later as band-aid on top of their credit card debt. The BNPL companies are downplaying the risks, but the numbers don't lie. We're looking at a potential credit crisis brewing, with consumers who are already financially vulnerable getting hit the hardest. Bottom line, recognize that BNPL, regardless of what marketing says, is not designed to help us save money or manage cash flow. It's designed to make us spend more money. Period. The whole BNPL business model is dependent on us buying things we wouldn't otherwise buy or buying more expensive versions of things we would have bought anyway. I say, let's put these companies out of business by denying them the one thing they need to survive: our wallet. Thank you guys for watching the theme of managing our emotions and money well. If you want to learn how rich people think differently about money, please check out my video here. Until next time, all the best.